Call your sponsor. Call your sponsor. Call your sponsor.
Bitch, call your sponsor.
Welcome back to Bitch Call Your Sponsor. My name is Misty.
And I'm Sam.
I see. Are you ready to do your primary purpose?
Yes.
Our primary
purpose
is for Misty
and Sam
to grow the
friendship
and
maybe help
others. Okay. Well, I have brought the topic of amends to me. And the reason I thought of this is it came up on a meeting today, and I used to have the strongest stance when people would say, and then I made amends to myself. And I was just like, you are such a wuss. And I was like, you don't get it. You don't understand. The amends is about other people. Like, we don't need to make amends to ourselves. It's just more and more trying to let ourselves off the hook. And that's not what we're here to do. We're here to browbeat ourselves and make amends for where we've done wrong. And we are supposed to do that. But now I've done a 180 on this topic. And I do believe that I'm supposed to make an amends to myself. And what that looks like, because I'm a big fan of the big book got my attention and my respect when it said, amends is not saying you're sorry. Amends says, I regret that I harmed you in this way. And is there anything I can do to make things right? I mean, I just love that it's not like, and then we said we're sorry. We are changing our behavior and we're continuing to change our behavior. So when it comes to me, what that looks like is the thought process of saying, you're not enough, you're not good enough. What did those people think of you? What did those people say the minute you left? How are they treating you? What did that eye roll look like? The amends to myself looks like being unwilling to think those thoughts and just going through life like, well, they can figure out whatever it meant, or they can come tell me, and just moving along when my head starts to do that kind of stuff instead of playing it all out. Okay, that's it.
I am so glad you brought this topic because I used to roll my eyes when people said that their name was on the first person listed on the amends. And I thought, wow, that is really self-centered. But as I stick around, I move closer, further from a drink. 8 is, who am I cutting out of my life? Where am I cutting people out of my life, right? Put people that I would cross the street for, right? So it's a disease of isolation. So I should really pay attention, shoulding myself, where I'm cutting people out of my life, right? And so 9 for me is, it's not just saying sorry or I apologize or whatever. It's like having the different action. And for me, it's become a different conversation. So a different conversation with others. And for this topic, a different conversation with myself. Those I still am working on those negative, it's like I would not even share how I talk to myself with anyone else, It's abusive. It's abusive. My first sponsor always used to say, pretend you're talking to a sponsee or anybody other than yourself when you're talking to yourself.
Wow.
That will help it be a little bit softer than this harsh, internal critic, always judging, never good enough voice.
Yeah, and it reminds me of this, and I've mentioned this before, this therapist, or actually I think she was a psychic, that my therapist, or an energy worker, healer, it's LA, okay? And she was telling me, as I was telling her all the stuff that was going on, she was like, oh yeah, I used to, think that way about myself and be plagued by all these thoughts and fears and concerns, and I don't walk around that way anymore. And I was just like, either you never experience what I'm experiencing or you're lying right now, because there's no way you get rid of this voice. That doesn't happen. And I've been experiencing not getting rid of the voice, but going in, looking it in the eye and saying, I see you. I see you're coming from a place where you're trying to protect me. These are old, outdated fears. And today we don't have the evidence for them. And so I'm not going to tell you to shut the fuck up. What I'm going to say is, hey, I've already taken care of that. What's your next fear?
It's what a journey. I think what unlocked a lot of this for me was the loving parent piece in the ACA, where I never was given that distinction. It was like, itty bitty shitty committee, which is AKA my alcoholism, and higher self. Like that was the distinction, I guess, I knew. And then dipping more into ACA, it's like the critical parent, the, angsty teen, the inner child, and then the loving parent. And it was the loving parent's voice that I never had, because I never really had a loving parent that had that voice. I had a perfectionist mom. I have a perfectionist mom who her voice that she didn't necessarily direct towards me. It was towards herself. And so for me, that was what I understood as love. Like, oh, hard on yourself because you want to achieve the best version of yourself, and by putting pressure and diminishing oneself and being hypercritical actually is supposedly supposed to make me achieve more. But that ultimately just wears down my spirit.
Right. That's exactly it. It reminds me of what we talked about before, where all the doctors would say you need to let your babies cry it out so that they'll be independent, which actually made kids more anxious instead of just taking them in your bed and holding them and keeping them in your room and always being there for every single cry and taking care of their needs. That actually made the babies more self-sufficient because they had this, grounding system, this home base of safety. And that it's within them. It gets to be cultivated within them. And so they are free to go out and to journey. And it's the opposite of what, modern medicine or psychiatrists would tell us about kids. And I think, they're coming around, but that was the message for so long.
It's fascinating because what was coming up for me was the attachment styles, right? And so I create a secure attachment with myself, right? And my understanding of that whole thing is that it's the loving parent that stays there and then allows the child to wander, but the child knows it can always come back because that's where the secure anchor is. And I never really had that. And so for me to do that for myself is also a whole nother journey. Because I think I really default to those old ways of thinking and being and speaking to myself, which can be very toxic.
It's so funny because when you say, well, I never really had that, I'm thinking, who did? Like, I don't know anybody that really did, I definitely didn't have that. I think there's a very small percentage of people, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's bigger, but I mean, I'm in recovery rooms, right? So I don't know anybody that really had this loving safety parent. I know very few people. And then, this reparenting stuff, I do a workshop every Monday night with the reparenting guidebook. And it was talking about, and go imagine your loving parent going within. And I recoil as if from a hot flame because when I was little, I remember there being this one woman who was like a church woman. And she was very like Christian down the street, and she had 2 kids, and they had crosses all over the place. And this was in Oklahoma City. And it was like, God, 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 Baptist God, right? And when I would have bad dreams, my mom would call her and she would tell me, like, expel Jesus, or expel the devil. And she scared the fucking shit out of me, right? And she was supposed to be a loving parent. Or my mom, who was out till 2 a.m. with random dudes. And so when it said go in and face this loving parent, I realized that Christian, overly Christian, I'm not saying anything about Christian people, you know what I mean? It was just, this woman was like, fire and brimstone kind.
Yeah. It's like the punishing.
Yeah.
Fear of God type business.
Right. So when I thought about, it's not my mom, I realized I had this old belief system in there that it's this church lady. And it's like, okay, it's not her either.
I have a question. Is it this therapist or psychic or whomever? They said that they don't. Did I hear that correctly? That they don't have that voice or thoughts anymore?
Yes. They said they're not burdened by them anymore.
Yeah. Okay, I got that. And then did they have a specific path?
I don't know. I didn't believe her. I thought she was lying. So I didn't even question.
Yeah.
I was like, and you're full of shit. You just want my money. Got it.
Yeah.
But
that's funny.
So I'll give you an example. I love real life examples. Today I had to go to CVS and pick up a prescription, right? And I've been to this one a couple of times, and it has these signs that say, for mobile order, if you would like to skip the line and just pick up mobile, here's the QR code. So it has that in the line that we're in 2 times. And I'm like, I'm standing in the most outrageously long line of my life to pick up a prescription. And you have 2 signs that say, skip it with this QR code. But there's where do we go? There's no, I have the QR, I have the thing, but nothing tells me where to go. And we're all just standing in a line, and you're gaslighting all of us, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, don't be a Karen, don't be a Karen, don't be a Karen. And then I was just like, I decided to get out of that energy fold of like resentment and going up there and telling them what's wrong. And I started like singing to whatever music was playing, some 80s song. And I start like moving and dancing, and I give 0 fucks about what everybody else in line thinks of me singing to this song. And everyone's on their phone. I'm not even looking back to see for once. And I was thinking, this is what that woman was talking about. I'm in my own body, having my own enjoyment of me and having a safe place to be free to be myself. And what the outside world is judging, thinking, first of all, they're probably not thinking about me, but I'm not even checking in. I'm not even, it bears no... It doesn't bear anything on this situation.
I love that example. This week, the last 3, how much long I've been working. I've been with some work since August, and then I started, this new gig, and the voices are still there, and what they say is, "Who do you think you are? You're fucked. This definitely is not going to work out." And so it's been this constant like, okay, thanks for sharing. We're here today, and just for today, I'm going to like focus on like the next action, and like, so I've just been constantly like, to your point earlier, is like, I'm not resisting the voices. They're there, and it's just like, okay, thanks so much. And let's just redirect over here, and it's just simply like this, gentle redirection. I mean, I've doubled down, and I'm setting my alarm multiple times with little prayers and mantras, and like, you got this, because it's like, it needs, for me, like, it needs to counter, because without me realizing, like, that for me is like what it talks about hopeless state of mind. Like my mind habitually thinks those negative thoughts.
Call your sponsor.
Call you sponsor. Call you sponsor.
Call your
Sponsor. Call you.
Bitch, call your sponsor.
Call your sponsor. Call your.
Send us an email with comments, questions, or concerns bcysponsor@gmail.com.
Don't forget to rate 5 stars.